All right, so welcome to Breakfast Connector here on Africa Business Radio. My name is Tobin Bola Awuyele, and we are going into our Tuesday discussion for this segment of the program right now. We're going to talk about the media industry. We're going to look at opportunities, threats, and risks, challenges, and like I said earlier, opportunities as well. So joining me to expand on the discussion is a colleague and friend, a media guru and soon-to-be mogul. So a warm welcome to Fola Folayan, the favored woman. Good morning, Fola.
Good morning, Bimbo. Thank you for having me on the show.
Wow. All right. So how's the week going so far?
Wow. It's been a very interesting week. I have just come back from election coverage. I covered the Ondo State governorship elections, and then I came into Lagos on Sunday and headed straight over to the protest on Lekki Toll Gate for the NSAS or police brutality protest. So it's been a very busy couple of days for me.
Well, busy day. I can just totally imagine. So let's start from the very beginning. Like that song from The Sound of Music says, let's start from the very beginning, a very good place to start. You are, a vet in this industry, you're just coming from an election. No doubt. What started it all for you? What attracted you to broadcast media?
Honestly, I think I've been attracted to broadcast media since when I was a child. And I have an uncle to thank for that. So when I was really young and, I was just playing around in the house and maybe I was being naughty, he would take me along to NTA, that's Nigerian Television Authority, in Ilorin, where he works as a cameraman. And, just to get me out of trouble at home, he would take me along and I would sit down and watch him do his work. I would watch him record. I would watch him just work in the, in the NTA studios as a camera operator. And along the line, there was a children's program called Children's Arena on NTA Ilorin then, where I grew up. And from coming over to the studio so much, especially during the weekends, I got drafted on the show, as one of the keys on the program. And so I would sit in there and do all the things that, they asked us to do with the kiddies program. And that was really, I just knew that I liked the life. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be those people. And, by the time I got into university, mass communication was the course of study I chose. And from my internship in my first 200 level, I was given a program on NTA Kaduna, another children's program to anchor. And let's just say my career kicked off from there.
Fantastic. I can just imagine. A lot of people usually, end up, doing something else. They find themselves and then they kind of backtrack or is it forward track into the media eventually. But I usually like it, when I find people who go straight into, what they know, what they've always wanted from a very, very early age. Now, you said Nigeria's radio broadcast industry, you described it as a cesspool of corruption, management, and employee abuse. Has this always been the description or perception for you, or was it something you just came into, knowing or describing?
I think for me, it started to become clearer the longer I stayed in the industry and the more I worked with different organizations, connected with other radio presenters working in different organizations. When I started, I was bright-eyed, I was excited, I was just happy to be in there. So I wasn't exactly paying attention to a lot of things that were happening that if you really look back on it now, they're wrong, but I never really thought it was a big deal. I once worked for a station where I didn't get paid for 9 months and I kept on working, kept on borrowing money just to make it to the studio to do my show. But I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't even think that they were doing something wrong against me. I just wanted to be in there. But at some point you grow up, right? Mm-hmm. You have responsibilities, you become an adult and you start to see things differently. And I think that's what happens to me. Over the years, I have grown and I have started to ask questions like, why should employees be treated this way? And it's unfortunate that the more you discover, it looks like everywhere is the same. So from one place to another, it's like a common denominator, Everywhere is just one form of employee abuse or the other.
It's like an abusive relationship that you can't get out of.
Exactly. You can get out of it because you enjoy what you do. You really love what you do, right? So don't feel like, I know people who have left the industry entirely to go into something else. Some have gone into private businesses outside of the media. Some have gone, to do something entirely different. For me, it's hard for me to decide that I want to go and do something entirely different because this is what I want to do. But I want to be able to do it and be compensated properly for it and be happy doing it mentally and emotionally. And that's where the problem is. For people who are fortunate to work in, I don't know if I'll even use the word fortunate, but let me just say for people who work in state-owned organizations, federal and state level, you know what I mean, media owned by government, they are on a steady paycheck. They're essentially civil servants, right?
Yeah.
So they work with a civil service structure. But for those of us in private-owned media in Nigeria, it's been a very different situation entirely. We try to say, we have it better and this and that, but it's not looking like that anymore. It hasn't looked like that for a very long time. Because one thing we do not have is job security. Another thing you do not have is that assurance that, the place you're going, not career projection. Where do you go from here? So you find someone who has worked in the media house for the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, and you haven't moved from one level to another. You're still essentially a radio presenter. There is very limited room for promotion. You don't get that. And there's so many things you don't get as well. Most times when people grow in that space, they have to walk their own growth.
Now,
which I feel is wrong.
Yeah. Now, poor remuneration, is one of the banes of this industry. But some will say, what are you saying? It's a general problem, across board. It's part of the argument they are making now, concerning what is even going on with this anti-police rallies that are going on, which we will get to later. So, what do you say to people, who will, wave it away and say, please, it's a general problem, so, join the queue?
It is a problem that we have normalized. It is a dysfunction that we have normalized. It is not something that we should accept as, because it's a general problem. The question is, why is it a problem? See, some of us have worked behind the scenes, presenters and producers in some of these media organizations. We have worked in management. We know money comes in. From media, from government, from politics, money comes in. Why is it that employees have never been a priority in some of these organizations? Employee remuneration, employee welfare has never been a priority. Before COVID, there were stations whose staff had to come on social media. In fact, there's a particular radio station where the staff, they went rogue. They hijacked the station's social media handles to express their grievances. They haven't been paid for months. Why? No explanations given, nothing, no communication, no empathy from the leadership, nothing. And that was before COVID. When COVID came, it gave some people an excuse to say, because there's coronavirus, business is low, we have to cut down this, we have to cut down that. That's understandable because that was all sectors, were affected, media and otherwise. But then media started to recover. And some responsible organizations said, okay, you know what, this pay cut is going to be for 3 months. And after 3 months, this is what we're going to overcome. And some decided to be irresponsible and left it open-ended. And some start living it like that, like, oh, okay, now COVID is over. The staff can see that the company has recovered, but the company has refused to revert to the previous salary structure, which is a problem on its own, because it's a breach of agreement. Secondly, when in that article that I wrote on my blog, I talked about how there is no pay structure, no uniform pay structure. So you can be on the same show with someone, doing essentially the same job, but because this person came in through the MD's younger brother or friend or whatever, he's getting paid 3 times more than you are. Why should that be? These are the problems. And then if you ever sat in front of, an interview panel to interview for a radio station, the kind of things you hear, of course, they all like the professionalism and everything. Oh, they love your audition, they love your presentation, they love everything. But when it's time to talk money, all that professionalism and everything about you that they love, your years of experience, what you get thrown out of the window will be dismissed totally. I once sat on an interview panel, Bimbo, and after talking, the man told me, the owner of the station was the one who interviewed me. He said, when he asked me how much I wanted to earn, I told him. He said, how much were you earning, before? I told him, because I could back it up with my previous payslip.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, who's going to pay you this one? He understands. And I looked at him like, they make you feel less than. And this is deliberate. It is so bad that you work in certain places, the way you are spoken to, the way you are scolded, the way you are talked to, they continuously try so hard to not make you see your own value and your own worth until just so that you don't recognize, because once you start to recognize your own value, you start to demand more.
Yeah. Is it a case of, or what do you see about situations where the finger is pointed back at the employer? I'll give you an example of a broadcast station in Lagos here that, staff were also being owed salaries, and then they picketed the company. And according to the reports, when some people, went to do a story on it, he took the reporters to the parking lot and was showing them cars owned by staff and said, you said they have not paid them salaries, but look, they all drive cars, they all buy new cars, which suggests that, the staff are making money perhaps on the basis of their talent or on the basis of their industry. Someone, told me that an employer once told him, when he was being owed salaries, that, but this ID card I gave you is your meal ticket. And stuff like that. So what do you say, to stuff like that maybe perhaps the practitioners themselves, the employees themselves are not the ones, raising the bar, or, maybe not demanding enough by accepting it, like we said earlier, that abusive relationship mentality?
See, I call it, for any employer to say that, I call it BS. You know why? Because it should not matter how much your employee makes outside of the job. It shouldn't matter what car they drive, where they live, how well they dress. It is the height of abuse to say the reason why you will not pay my salary is because I appear to be living well, despite the fact that I'm not being paid. What is when you get a job and they give you an employment letter and you sign, it's a contract. It's an employment contract that we sign. So if you are not paying, you are in breach of that contract. And that's one thing I feel like every one of us in this business should put into our consciousness. That you cannot look at me in the eye and say, oh, I drive a Mercedes, and because of that, even if you don't pay me for 3 months, I should be fine. It is not your business. Me and you have an agreement, and these are the terms. If you don't meet the terms, you are in breach. And this is that abusive behavior I was talking about. And it starts also from our own, as practitioners, it starts from our mentality, our mindset. We need to get a reorientation. We need to see ourselves as valuable. We are the talent. We are the value. We bring the value to that business. So someone should not be able to talk us down or browbeat us and make us feel like they're doing us a favor for paying us what we have worked to earn. I feel like if more presenters were willing to walk away from the negotiating table, if more of them were willing to speak up, if more of them were willing to look at employers in the eye and say, no, I will not accept this, we will start to teach them to treat us right. Because you can only teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
But too many times, they have felt, like, oh, the power is in their hands, so they can do anything they like. Because after all, we are all just employees. Recently, one of these women, she was trying to start a radio station in Lagos, and she's been trying to start it for a while. Got some funding here and there, I heard, and she's been trying to recruit people. And I know from personal information, she has interviewed, if you're talking about the best of the best, at least in Lagos, she has interviewed everyone, covering politics, whatever thing she wants to put them in. She has interviewed everyone. And it hasn't worked out. Why? Because she has not been able to meet the terms. And then recently, somebody she had employed to do recruitment for her came and said, oh, Fola, please, we want to, can you please put up a list of, the top presenters in Lagos? We would like to see if we can poach some. I told him point blank, I said, I know this person you're working for. She has interviewed the best of the best. Why couldn't she hire them? Why couldn't she make it work? And I was happy that she was having difficulty because you cannot hire top talent and not pay top dollar for it. You want to hire top talent and you want to pay entry level salary. Now, it doesn't work like that anymore.
Now, this segues into next thing I want to ask you. We look at quite a number of these media agencies, these broadcast organizations, and unlike before, now most of them are owned or established by ex-broadcasters. You might look at, maybe the CNNs and then the Fox, with Ted Turner in charge. Ted Turner was not a broadcast person. Rupert Murdoch was not a broadcast person. But now, ex-broadcast people are now owning businesses, but it really hasn't changed much. I would have thought maybe it will be a pirate radio kind of scenario where that we were all part of this system, so we do not want something like this to happen to people that will be under us. We want to be above board, but then you see them replicating that thing also, even after they've gone on to set up their own organization. Is it?
In fact, they are the worst, actually. To be honest, they are the worst. Because one thing I have to make clear is, because someone is an ex-broadcaster, it is not a guarantee that this person is a broadcast manager. It doesn't guarantee that the person is a good businessman. A lot of times, if you really look, let's be honest with ourselves, these so-called ex-broadcasters are funded by other people, and they are like fronts for some of these media organizations. You'll be surprised. Go look at the board of directors. That's where you will know the real owners. But they put them there as a front because, they have the pedigree of being a broadcaster before and blah, 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 blah. But they always fail because essentially they're not businessmen. And essentially they grew up in broadcasting in a generation where they still can't see ahead. I have worked and spoken with some of them, and it's always a disappointment because it's like they're stuck in a time loop where they don't see that broadcasting has changed across the world. They don't see it. Gone are those days. I feel like right now we should not be having broadcasters as employees of any media organization. Let everybody be a talent on contract. So you want to hire a talent for your morning show, for your drive time show, or whatever. What do? Get this person who is represented by talent management agency with a lawyer, and you sit down and negotiate the contract. Is it a 3-year contract we're negotiating? Is it a 5-year contract? Is it a 1-year contract we're negotiating? What are the terms? What is it? Because that's the only way you can really get professionals. And that's the only way we can benefit as well. So that we can have other things. People are still signing contracts, Bimbo, that tell them that, you can't have your voice elsewhere, you can't have your face elsewhere.
Non-compete.
Non-compete. You can imagine signing a contract that says when you go and MC outside on your own private gig, you will pay 30% to the radio station you are working for. I saw the contract.
I think we both signed something like that at some point.
Imagine. Is that slavery or what?
Yeah, I think, in the beginning, when you don't, when you're just coming in, sometimes it could be that you just want your first break and you're not reading between the dotted lines. I mean, it happens across industries, even in sports, you just want, your first contract, and then you end up, ensnaring yourself unknowingly, because you didn't read the dotted lines. Some people are still like, even in sports, there are some players that even when they move, they're on their third club, but their initial club is still earning money based on every move they have made because of an initial contract that is signed and they didn't read in fine print there. That maybe for your next 3 clubs or next 3 moves, we will get X percentage of, your sign-on fee. And what they just wanted, was the initial, to get into the business, to get signed up, for it, and they just didn't read the fine print. Yeah, probably that's what's happening to a lot of people. But is that a good, way to get into the industry, or should they hold on and, because everybody wants that initial first break?
Everybody wants the initial first. See, what we need to do is not so much for our sake anymore, because we're older, we're wiser, we're cutting our own path. But for the sake of these people who are coming in, we should work to abolish that system, such that nobody in their right mind would have the nerve to put that in a contract. That's what I feel we should be working towards. So that kind of contract doesn't even exist in the first place. Otherwise, they will keep doing it. We need to fight the system. That won't be easy, but I strongly believe that it can be done. We do need to fight that system. That's why we need to keep talking about it. And then, I think I highlighted it in that article that we don't speak with one voice. We don't talk together. Which I feel like it's a major problem. Because when you're hiding from me, Bimbo, and I'm seeing that everything is looking fine. I just assume that things are good. And then we're trying so hard to show each other that we are better off where we are. But we are also free. We are also free. It's crazy. In the Yoruba media industry, the Yoruba radio industry, I hope you know that they have their own association. They call it FIBAN. When I was working in Ibadan, the Yoruba broadcasters, they are not hired, though. They are not employees, though.
They are
all independent producers. Yes, they are talent. So someone like a Yemi Shonde would have programs on OGBC.
Yeah.
He will have on OS.
Yeah.
He will have on 5GSM. And in a week, he has covered like 3-4 radio stations. Doing his thing. Syndicated programs. Why can't we have that? Why can't we?
I guess it's a gradual progress. Yeah. I mean, you look at all those guys, even, you see on CNN, Cuomo, Sean Hannity on Fox, they all have radio programs. Even, the current vice president, Mike Pence, used to have a radio program. And a lot of them, they have podcasts, they do their 1-hour show on television and then they have a radio program. Megyn Kelly and there is no competition. There is no, there are no issues with it.
There are no issues because right now the world has gone multimedia.
Yeah.
There is no reason why you should be stuck in one place, and that's why we don't grow. Because we're stuck on this one platform. You can't move left, you can't move right, you can't expand. And I feel like it's deliberate. I mean, I've worked for an employer who I felt at some point was psychopathic. Because this dude tries really hard to keep you contained. Before I started working there, I was told that, the presenters couldn't even mention their personal social media handles on air.
Wow.
And then it got to a point where something happened to an employee. So what had happened was, she had this really brilliant program that was really awesome on Saturdays. It was good. And then she got the attention of, an international media organization. And they said, we like this program. We would like to partner with you on it. So it will air on your station on Saturday. And then we will take excerpts from it on our own platform. Guess what? He refused. I mean, this is something that could have given his own organization an international audience or whatever. He refused on the basis of, we don't want attention on any individual presenter here. Everybody is an employee. Nobody can own any particular. He said nobody can take ownership of a particular program. So that's why the fact that this person has been presenting this show for a certain number of, a certain length of time, that everybody has come to identify her with it. As far as he's concerned, you're getting too much attention, so you cannot own it. Let someone. So at the end of the day, people feel very discouraged. They see it as stifling. If you, as a media manager, Bimbo, you have a presenter who presents the morning show on your station, and this show has become synonymous with this person. In fact, it's become, the morning show is Bimbo, the morning show is Bimbo, everybody loves the morning. And then an opportunity comes for you to brand the morning show with Bimbo and take it to an international level. But you are now angry that it should not be called the morning show with Bimbo because Bimbo cannot own the morning show. It just sounds illogical to me.
Now, let's talk about free media, because this one issue, that we've been talking about, we can be on this matter, between you and I. For ages, because there's still the issue of the employer and the employee who needs education. It's kind of like the employer doesn't want the employee to be informed about, international best practices, or the employee himself is not educating himself to know that, this is how it should be done. So that is an entirely different conversation. But in terms of new media, new and free media, the pros and cons. Social media has made everyone like a journalist now, and we can see, but there are pros, there are cons. How do we find the balance?
I think balance comes with education, information, and training, which I am very, very big on. Mm-hmm. So the thing with new media is it's been a blessing, so to speak. I know people will say, there are downsides to it, which there are. But for me, I think like it is with virtually everything in life. There are pros and cons. Yeah. Exactly. For me, I feel like, especially for us media practitioners, it has been a blessing. It has allowed some of us to have a platform outside of the traditional platform that we have been, shackled to for a long time. And it gave some of us an opportunity to step out. If not for new media, I would probably still be shackled to one radio station owner by now. Do you get?
Yeah.
So I feel like, new media has been a blessing. It has created opportunities. It has created business opportunities. I started my business using new media as a platform and then expanded it, until it became what it is right now. So yes, it is giving us leverage, it is giving us all these great things. But then again, it also has, like you said, free media. It's so easy to put content out there and forget that, you are supposed to make a living from this thing. Yeah. And then you get carried away in putting out content. I did that for a lot of time, for many years actually. I used to just put out content because I enjoyed it and all of that. But when I started seeing the business angle, and I saw that, wow, okay, it is time to actually monetize this thing. I started to even teach it. One of the things we teach at VRNC is we teach podcasting. And then from there, we teach you how to market your podcast such that you can actually, we are all media owners now. Long story short. All of us are media owners. Because you have your program, you can have your internet radio. Thank God that, the regulation around internet radio in Nigeria is still coming up. And so there's still plenty of opportunities and plenty of things to do in that space. Now, one of the downsides is, the influx of what you call the citizen journalist. So that comes with misinformation and disinformation and outright fake news and all of that. But this is where the training comes up. Because we now know that these things exist. And we are professionals. So it behooves, it's on us, really, to fight disinformation, to fight misinformation, and to make sure that our platforms are not channels for that. And even in the process of gathering content online, and you get user-generated content, we have to now learn how to fact-check and filter out, what is wrong and what is a lie and what is truth. And this is where, as journalists, every day you learn something, every day you inform yourself, every day you train, every day you get better. Because one of the things traditional media doesn't do for us is they don't train us now. They don't.
Yeah.
If you're not lucky to have gone through FRCN at any point, you're not going to get any training. So you have to now be the one to start to seek training for yourself so that when you do stand on your own, or even before you do stand on your own, you're already you can really expand your professionalism. You can be the kind of journalist that you deserve to be, that you should be. For me, I feel like free media is great for maybe putting your name and your brand out there. But at some point, you have to realize that this is a business. And then you now have to learn the business side of it and work towards that.
Now, you're big on training. You organize master classes. You do in-person training. And you've interacted with a lot of prospective broadcast journalists and media persons, people who want to be in the industry either for the fame or the glamour or just, because, as something that they really want to do. Most of them young people, and we have the largest population of young people in Africa. What do you think is their biggest challenge or deficiency?
To be honest, I think most of them, it started, I think it probably started from the university. I feel like there's a lot of, I see a lot of underdevelopment, to be honest. I mean, you talk to someone who is supposedly a university graduate, and there are things you expect that, okay, it should come to you because you've gone through a system. But then you realize that, wow, it's not there. For me, it's always a shock every time I come across that, And then there's always also that the inability to apply themselves. I see that a lot, critical thinking. They want to be spoon-fed. So you see, some will have a study material, but will still ask questions that have obviously, answers have been laid out in the material in their hands. But they want to be giving, being spoon-fed muscle by muscle. And I'm asking, how is it? Because I feel like 4 years in a tertiary institution should have developed certain characters in you. That by the time you say, okay, you now want to study some more, towards a particular profession, we don't have to start at kindergarten level anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's one huge challenge that we face. And some of them are distracted by their own things, really. So they still want to, I just want to get my voice out there. I just want to, they want to be famous. It's not wrong to want to be famous, but then priorities first, at least lose the job.
Yeah. Kind of like they're focused on blowing rather than doing the work to blow.
Exactly. I mean, do the work, not the job. Some of them don't know how much, hard work it is. So usually when they come in, our first class is usually introduction. Mm-hmm. So we teach you introduction to presentation, you learn your formatics, you learn, the different radio formats that are available out there. Pretty simple basic, chewing gum stuff. And then the second class we teach is the show prep and research, which is a very long class, sometimes taking up to 2 weeks. And that's where the rigorous work comes in. And I can see how dejected some of them get when they realize that this is not a joke.
It's not a joking matter.
They now realize that they have to critically think, they have to read, they have to write, they have to put ideas together, they have to construct the ideas into something that makes meaning, ask critical questions, and they now become worried. And that's when some of them realize that, okay, this is not glamorous. And we always tell them that broadcasting, it looks glamorous, but the behind-the-scenes work, it is not glamorous. It is hard work. And then you now see them like, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Well, it is getting started. So those are some of the issues, really.
Well, Fola, talking about, show prep and, doing the work, I really have a long list of conversation topics, that I would love us, to go through here. We have to continue this conversation. We have to.
Sure do. I want to do that.
We have to continue this conversation, but we just have to put a pause in it right now. And I'll give you a ring later.
Okay. Yeah. No problem at all.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
All right. So we've been talking to Fola Folayan, broadcaster, media personality, trainer of trainers. She has years of experience on the belt doing this job, a colleague and a friend. And we've been talking about the risks, opportunities, and threats in the journalism business. A lot of people, want to come into this space. It looks glamorous, it looks fun, it looks exciting and entertaining, but there is also a lot of work that has to be put into it. You just don't fall into the job. It just doesn't come upon you. It's not an impartation kind of thing. You have to put the work in. And you're still listening to Africa Business Radio. We'll be right back.